guys, so today I'd like to show you how to trigger multiple timelines from one queue in a timeline. So in theory, when we have a queue, a play queue, we can trigger another timeline, but we are quite limited to just triggering another timeline. Maybe we want to trigger two different timelines or a few queues in different timelines. So what I'd like to show you here is a workflow that allows you to bundle some presets in a control module in an action and then trigger that action from the timeline. You don't have to trigger it from a timeline, you can trigger it from companion, you can trigger it from a user interface, but the main thing here is that we find an easy way to just find the commands to put them in a script in an action in control. Good? So what I've done, I have, as always, UHD output behind me. I have connected it, of course, to this monitor, and in my compositing window, I made 3 timelines. So what I want to do now is I want to add a 4th timeline, and I call this one show timeline. What this one is doing is this is the leading timeline that has the main queues with some pieces of content, and from that timeline we want to trigger other timelines. So maybe at the same time. So let me show you. Timeline 1, I have a piece of content that I will position on the left corner. I will store these values by pressing Alt-S, and I'm storing it for the entire container. Then let me go to the second timeline. Do the same thing. I'll resize this video a bit, move it here in the center, store this value so we can see when we are triggering all 3 timelines at the same time. So now I have my last timeline, and I will put the video, also scale it down a bit and put it right here. Good. Store the values again. Good. So now I can control every timeline individually from my show timeline. I want to do this through one queue that is hit at a certain moment, and when this hits, I want to trigger something. So what do? We go to Pixera control. First of all, in the library, we can go to our new module. The new module, it's an empty module. There's nothing in it, but it's a good base to start from when you are creating your own small scripts or logic inside of a module. So let us call it show timeline module, something like that. Then by right clicking in it, we can give it an action. Let's call it trigger all timelines. Just that. We have made this action now. When I select the action, on the right hand side, we have our properties for that action. They are, for this instance, they are set correctly. And we have a code. In the code, we can type in code. But if you are not a coder, or you don't know anything about programming like me, and you have to learn this by working with Pixera, then Pixera has some nice tricks to allow you to find these certain pieces of code that can trigger or can do API calls to Pixera. So the second module that we can always see is the Pixera module in control. This is somewhat of a graphical representation of the Pixera API. So we can find a lot of similar API calls in this module, graphically represented, that we can use in our scripts. Now, how do they work? Well, if you just want to trigger something, it's quite easy. What we can do is, by pressing this icon here, we can enable the block mode programming. This means we can create lines of code without coding. This is pretty cool stuff. It's important on the second icon here to select the module that we are referring our code to at the moment that when we are working with it. So I want to work on the Pixera module now from my show timeline module. So I select Pixera, and by pressing the plus now, I can browse the Pixera module. So first of all, what do I want to do in this one? I want to go to Pixera timelines. I want to check my timelines, timeline 1. And then I want to have the cues here. So now Pixera will show me the cues that are available. And I have cue C1, and I can apply it. So when I apply this one, there is a blend duration in seconds. So when we trigger this line, it will do a transition, a blend of X amount of seconds. So at this time, I don't want to do this. So this is my first line of code. By deselecting the block mode now, we can see how this will look like. So what it's actually doing is it's actually referring to a timeline queue. It's pulling a handle by inserting these names. It's pulling a handle, filling it in, and then applying this call. So this is all being done in the back. So for us, what is important here is this line, because it's the name of our timeline and the name of the queue. So now I can just select everything here, Ctrl C, paste it, and replacing this by the name of my other timelines. And of course, I named them quite conveniently, but in your case, if you have names, you can do it like this, or you can do the same thing again as many times as you want. So now, when I store this one, by triggering this value now, you'll see that all timelines will start playing at the same time. So when I trigger this, you can see that all 3 pieces of content behind me are playing at the same time. So now, how can we link this action to a timeline queue? Well, if you, in Pixera Control, select this button, we can show the timeline in Pixera Control. We can go to the Show Timeline and select the queue. And when we do this, when we have the queue selected, we can, aside from trigger other timeline, which allows us to trigger one timeline, we can also send out a network command. For us, what we want to do is we want to send a network command to, we don't want to send a network command, we want to send a command to Pixera Control. So this is the Pixie option here. When we do this, we can just type the name, so in our case, show timeline module dot trigger all timelines. And we don't need to put the brackets behind it. Let us apply it, try it by sending the command. So let me first show you. Let's stop or playback. When I try the command, see if it works. Yes, it works. So at this point, every time when we are hitting this marker, it will automatically start playing 3 timelines at once. Oh. So we can just as well now, and this is now it starts to become fun, we can add as many actions as we want, make compositions of actions. Let me show you another one. So trigger all timelines. Wait, let's do this in one line. All timelines with an offset. So I will just now go, and this is the fun part. We can go to this one again, select it, copy all this code, move it here, store it. You can go actually, if you want, back to block mode. And now the cool thing is, if you right click here, it gives you some other options. So another cool option is the sleep option. So utils.timer.sleep and then a time. So let us also put in a fade duration of 2 seconds every time and store all this. What I want to do now is, of course, I want to put the Ctrl X here. I want to put the timer in between all of these values, and maybe we want to put it to 2 seconds just for fun. And so now whenever I trigger this one, it will start playing one by one by one, and they will fade in each of them with a 2-second fade. So this allowed us to make some kind of compositions in a script which can be triggered through a queue in the timeline or any other instance externally. So very simple implementation, nothing crazy yet, but it's pretty cool in my opinion, and it can be of use when you want to do something a bit not standard in Pixera. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to register on our YouTube channel, and I will try to make a steady flow of videos with tips and tricks as much as possible. So take care and see you guys later. Cheers.